Morning, Sarah.
We are now streaming live on YouTube. I don't get to see that very often. But I'm streaming live on YouTube. It's not exactly what my kids watch.
Yeah, I don't have the statistics, but I think a surprising number of people do access the meetings through YouTube, and I do it after the fact, a lot of them.
Honestly, it's great. I mean, that's one of the advantages, right, of Zoom.
Right.
But one day it would be nice to meet in person. I got to meet Dave in person.
Yeah, I kind of hadn't until we came to the realization that we hadn't actually met in person. I almost forgot. All
Some
right,
of you guys might be
I'm
7
moving
feet
over
tall.
Andrew. I'm moving Andrew and Aaron over to panelists. I didn't see them at first. They were on.
Okay. No, and no one said they weren't going to be here. So sorry for the double negative. Everyone is supposed to be here. But so far, let's see.
So if we meet in person, this would stop being recorded, correct?
Yes.
I don't think so. I think it's still recorded.
Is it still
Potentially.
recorded?
It's still getting worked out what the requirements are. There's some implementer bill, and I don't quite know the status of it. So there's a potential that could be the case. If there's not it may be that if you're meeting in person and it's not a public hearing,
That's what I was going to say.
there may not be a need to, record it on Zoom, but I haven't gotten clarification on that yet.
It seems to me if we meet in person and the public is invited, then it doesn't have to be recorded. If the public's not able to come into the building, so if we're allowed to meet, but nobody's allowed to come, then that makes it not a public meeting, right? I mean, I don't know, how are the select people and how are other people doing it?
So the only boards we've done hybrid so far, the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance, and they've done it so they're meeting here in town campus. The public can attend, and then people can participate via Zoom. But I don't think all the boards are going to operate in the same way because it's a little bit of a logistical hurdle to get technology people here to support the hybrid format and all that other stuff. So
Sure.
it's still getting worked out.
Okay, well, maybe while it's getting worked out, we should get started. We'll start the meeting, and Dave, we have you last on our agenda, but this is Dave's last day with us and with the town, correct?
Well, it was originally my last day. I extended a couple weeks, so I'll be here through July 2nd. So I may be able to attend your next meeting, especially if you're in person, because I'll be here that day.
Oh, I had no idea. All right, well, that's wonderful news. So we don't have to say anything nice about you today?
No, I can skip that. Yeah.
Okay. I know, so I circulated the minutes that Matt wrote. They're very high tech because they actually involve him leaving and still taking notes. I was thinking if we saw this a year and a half ago, we would question the Harry Potter-esque minutes that we have, but did everyone get a chance to look at them quickly? And if so, do I have a motion to approve the minutes? This is from June 6th.
Motion
I'm sorry,
to
June
approve
4th,
the minutes
June
is
4th.
written. Motion to
I'll
approve,
second.
Sarah.
Okay.
I'll
And I
second.
never know if you write the minutes, if you can approve the minutes, but I'll take it. Oh, and speaking of which, Aaron, I think you're on for the minutes. Is that?
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
That's fine.
And then we start the list over next week, right?
I think that's right, because then we've all done it. And so I just want to say, if you're comfortable, once you've taken the minutes, sending them to the group, please do send them to the group. You don't have to send them to me and have them, have me miss it in my inbox until midnight or something. So feel free to send it to the group. I don't do any substantial edits or anything like that of the minutes before I get it. I think, Peter, I added one person's name that I knew wasn't there. but in any case, I think Judge just added that Crystal was on vacation last time. But send it to the group. I think that would be faster. So I think some of us were able to go to the SCROG meeting with the consultant. And I know I saw Peter there. I know some of you asked to watch it after, and they did say they were going to record it, but I don't know if any of you were able to get the recording. But just a show of hands, how many people were there? Yeah, okay, and I was there, and Dave was there. Peter, do you want to start? You want to give your impressions of?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was a little bit underwhelmed. I don't know that we covered a lot of ground. And I don't know that we needed to. I think this was more to sort of say what the battle cry is and how we're going to proceed. And I don't know that I came across learning anything that I didn't already know. I'm looking at my notes here. They seem to indicate that, you know, the survey is really important when we get it out. And you really want to get a big response to the survey once they're ready with it, which I think is what, at the middle of July, they said it'll be ready for us, the survey?
Yeah, it sounds like they'll start July 1st. The consultant
okay,
starts
I see
July
that here.
1st. And then it sounds like that's going to be the first order of business to get at least a draft out within a week or so. And I did ask for the ability to change the draft and to look at it because we want to make it Madison specific. And they said that wasn't a problem. So I would imagine, you know, let's say they get it to us the second week. I would hope we could give them a quick turnaround. I don't imagine it's a very long survey.
Yeah, and then I think the question is, how do we get the survey out? You know, how do you do that? Because if you want, why? Because participation is not good anyway, most of these. And so we've got to get it in, like, you know, when you check out to buy your groceries, I mean, it's literally, if you're going to get response, you really got to get it out there. And I think that's what we really have to think about hard is how we, even if it's not impactful, we're going to learn something from the survey, but we just got to get enough response to make it relevant.
Agreed. And I think in any of these, I was just gonna say, a survey is twofold, right? The survey is to get information and it's also to give information. I mean, the best way to make people aware that we are trying to do some affordable housing in Madison is to have them read the survey and see that there's a committee and that we're doing this work. And that's why I wanted permission to modify the survey somewhat, because I feel like at the very beginning, a sentence or two that says, this is the committee, this is what we're doing, maybe even giving email addresses or something, and we can talk about that, would be the best way to let people know that this exists at the very least. I'm sorry, Dave, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, sorry. I was just gonna add a thought. So one of the things the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee did when they did a survey, which got good participation, was to occasionally show up at the farmer's market. And while that sounds like, wow, you wouldn't get a lot of responses, it generated a kind of a community feel to the whole initiative. And there was an article in the paper with a picture of a couple people at the farmer's market. So it got traction beyond just getting raw survey information. And I think it definitely seemed to put a positive spin on participation. So that's something we could consider, just to make it really a community-driven effort.
Would it be objectionable to actually like stand outside of Stop and Shop and hand them out?
I believe they did that as well for the bike ped group. They did things like that. Again, just to kind of, I don't know that it really makes a dent in how many people fill out the survey, but it just gives a nice impression that you're really making your best effort to get participation. So.
Also, I think, as long as Stop and Shop allows it, then, if somebody's manning a booth, or I can't believe I just used that term. If someone is, at the booth, then I think you have a face to, and so I think that people who are interested, or even people who are opposed, or people who don't know what you're doing, they will stop and talk to you. And that's who you want to talk anyway. So I have down the list how we can get the word out for the survey. I think when Peter said, he was underwhelmed, I think part of the problem with the SCROG meeting was that the consultant was not there, right? So we got to hear what the consultant will do, but not hear from the consultant really anything. And I think for us, we've already been thinking about some of these issues. I think some of the towns we're joining with are in different positions, and some of them are, some of them have written their plan or on their way, and some are just starting to think about this. But I would love to hear from the consultant what's the best way to get the word out. And yet, I guess, given what you just said about Stop and Shop, I feel like we know Madison and the ways that we could get the word out. So one thing I thought about was, I assume that, this survey will be online, but I want to make sure that we can also collect data just from people who fill things out, because some people in this town will feel more comfortable with that. And I think wherever we're passing it out, we should be passing out a hard copy of it if you want it, or just saying where the link is. And so there's sort of the email blast and things that we might think to do to our contacts, and we might think to do for those of us who are on a Madison, Facebook group. But then there's also the library. There's, in my opinion, churches in this town and the synagogue, although a lot of people are not meeting in person, but in their weekly newsletters. So that would be for us. I think the work that we could do now to support the consultant is the first stage right now we're in is information gathering. And I think we started to think about it, and then we kind of stopped because we felt like there's a consultant there going to do it. I don't know that the consultant's going to come in and tell us every way we're going to reach Madison, but the same people we want to reach to tell them that we're doing this, those are the people we want to get out the word that we're going to have a survey. So I think.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? So is the next step in this process fine tuning the survey and then disseminating that survey to as many people as we can? Is that, so that's like step one, is taking that, putting the sentence you said, one or two, and then getting the word out. Is that correct? I
guess I would say it's a step one. I don't know that we have to shut down other things, Matt, and we sort of jumped ahead a little bit. And in fact, did we, whatever, we jumped ahead a little bit, but so, because one of the things we've talked about is talking to stakeholders. So these could go hand in hand. I know we've talked about having some developers come, and I thought we were going to have someone this Friday, but they're not able to come, but maybe we'll have a tour. And so I think it's educating ourselves and educating everyone around us. And that's, it's not like a straightforward task. And I am trying to wrap my head around it. 2 weeks ago, I felt a little like, I guess we've got a consultant who's going to do it. Now I feel more like we're back on, we need to start thinking about what we think step one is. Certainly it's gathering information is one thing. Go ahead, Matt, sorry.
No, okay, that's you answered my question.
And I guess I would sort of throw it back and say, besides the survey, and we can talk about, what are the concrete ways we're going to get this survey out? What do people feel like is step one?
Sarah, I was going to add a couple more things that I think they are going to do for us. They're going to meet with each town, obviously, pretty quickly. And then I think there'll be a big kickoff meeting with the consultant in all the towns. And they're going to give us a one-page information handout relative to our town. And then also, I think they're writing up sort of a primer on affordable housing as well that we can give out to various people, which I think will be helpful. So, I mean, again, I was underwhelmed in terms of that meeting, but not underwhelmed necessarily in terms of what we think will be forthcoming from them at some point in time.
Yeah, and I think we were invited to that meeting in response to us saying, yes, it was important for us to be in the loop. And so maybe we were underwhelmed because they weren't ready to present anything to us, right, but they invited us there.
Peter, when you said the kickoff meeting, who is that? Who is going to be in attendance for that, for the town? Is that
Well,
just with our group or?
Well, that was
other
mine.
people?
I just wrote here that RKG will meet with each town. And then I think, maybe my notes aren't clear, but then there'd be a big kickoff meeting with kind of everybody brought together. I'm assuming via Zoom. But maybe I have the order wrong, but they definitely said they'd be meeting with each town.
And I think to answer your question, Aaron, as to who's going to be there for each town, it really varies. It's really about what the town wants. I think in Madison, that would be our committee. It would certainly be, the Board of Selectmen. It might reach to others. I feel like the more people we have talking to the
Okay.
consultant, the
So
better.
would be our responsibility to put this group together and to make people aware that there's going to be this kickoff meeting.
Again, we don't have details of what the consultant thinks is what the consultant would do. I mean, so I can't quite answer that.
Because that would be something we could start working on, I guess, identifying who we would want to be there and working out the logistics of that, if that's going to be our responsibility.
So maybe that's a follow-up. I can follow up with David Fink to say, you've identified some of these things that the consultant's going to do, that first meeting, things like that. Is that the consultant who's going to, I would imagine the first meeting is the consultant will say, this is what I'm going to do. And you invite who you want to invite. And, but
Okay.
I can ask David Fink, what they envision, if anything.
And we don't know the timing on that meeting yet.
So I know it sounds like a broken record, but I don't
Yeah.
think so, because July 1st, the consultant starts. So this consultant has not started. So even if they said, this is the timing, I don't think we know it yet.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out the sequence of events. So the survey will happen sort of at the same time, around the same time as this meeting, or there'll be a meeting and then the survey. Or
My understanding is, again, it's not going to be a step one, that there'll be more than one step one. The survey, they have promised us, like, that is the very first thing the consultant's going to be working on, and that we should expect to see a draft within the first week or two of July. And since the consultant's starting July 1st, whether they already have these kind of surveys and it's going to be a very quick turnaround, again, this is the blind leading the blind a little bit.
Yeah.
I think July 1st will be a lot clearer. And, it begs the question, and so now we're kind of all over the place, but it begs the question, we're very lucky that the SCROG hired a consultant, that we have these towns coming together. But we might want a little bit more. We might want to think about Madison and what Madison can support, what lands we have, what the appetite is, what we want to push for. You see what Guilford did when they got a lot of people together. And there are these small grants available now, first come, first serve, for the plan. And the truth is, the first select woman sent this to us, to Dave and to me, and I just thought we wouldn't be eligible given the fact that we already have a consultant. But she explained that we probably would be eligible. This would be a consultant to work more closely with us. Again, without having our consultant start, it's a little hard to say we definitely need someone else, because I don't know what this consultant's plan. But I do know, and we all know, that consultant is responsible for 15 towns. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the consultant's not going to meet with each town before they do the survey. So it's just going to be a survey that's a survey that's going to be the same. And then we would have the opportunity to tweak the survey once we get the draft.
Only because I sort of mentioned, hey, I think.
No,
So,
I know. I'm just.
So I'm not sure every town is even going to tweak it, but yes, that's correct. Yeah. Right. And that's why I think they think they'll get it out quickly, because perhaps this consultant already has this kind of a survey, right? And so,
Well, yeah, they have to. They have
Right,
to have done this
of
before.
course.
They're not reinventing
Yeah,
the wheel.
well,
One would hope,
to start
yeah.
on July 1st and get the survey out on July 1st, it would be pretty impressive if they didn't have something already done.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect this to be pretty well vetted and will probably largely serve our needs. I mean, I don't know that for a certainty, but again, if they're worth their salt, they better have a pretty good survey already in their back pockets.
Yeah,
Yeah, and part of it is the survey and the data collection. It's not exactly clear to me. So can we have write-ins, for example? And do we have people filling out things? And then, are they compiling this for each town? I mean, for me, I want to ask the question, where would you like to see things? If I'd like to give some open-ended answers where people can say everything they want to say, because obviously the people who respond to this survey are the ones who are going to be involved in this effort, either pro or con. And I think it's really important for us to hear their voice early on. Does anyone have any? Should we go back for a second and think about what would be our concrete steps of getting the survey out? Or do you feel like we should save that? I mean, we know what the survey is going to be, so I feel like we could probably do that. I don't know if you all have thoughts on doing that now, or if you think that's too soon.
They haven't clarified the timeline of the survey or the duration of it at all, because I feel like that impacts a lot of how quickly we need to move and next steps in planning.
Yeah, I mean, so the problem we have as a committee is that, in a way we've started too early, but I actually think we started pretty late. I think, this charge has been here for a while and we need a plan by June 2022. So you're right. I mean, I can't answer any of these questions, but I also feel to a small extent that waiting for the consultant to answer all our questions is not the right answer. I think, we sort of know Madison. You must have been drawn to this committee for some reason or drafted for some reason. And so I think we should be thinking about what's the information we want to get out. And one thing I was thinking is, besides figuring out how to get this survey out, we had talked in the very beginning, even before I was here, about people we wanted to reach out to, groups we wanted to reach out to, and then we kind of put that on hold. I don't think there's any reason that should be on hold. And I think that that's what we can learn the need, and we can hear who wants to support this effort before anything else happens. I don't think it has to be on hold. So, we had talked about a number of different groups that were worth talking to. The Board of Education, Stop and Shop. We had said, we were going to go to the library and different churches and the temple and the ABC group. And so maybe during this time, while, we have a few weeks where we're waiting to see a survey, I think once we get the survey, that will go to all of us and we can talk about it. And, but before that time, do we have thoughts on, should we reinvigorate that group?
What about, Sarah, to your point, to my question earlier, what if we went on parallel tracks between now and then? One track is assigning or asking people who they would feel comfortable talking to and gathering that information regarding need and desire and opinion. And the other track is coming up with a dissemination plan for the survey itself. Do we get a story in the Shoreline Times? Do we stand out in front of Stop and Shop? So one track is information gathering with these potential stakeholders and opinion leaders and folks in town. And the other track is, developing an outreach plan for the survey. And I think at some point in July, those two tracks will converge. And I think we'll be in good shape when the survey is actually finished.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. And the one track I would sort of add to it is there's talking to people who might have the need and or know about the need. And then there's talking to people who might be supportive of this effort and just reaching out to them to hear their ideas and thoughts.
Yeah, I think those 3 tracks, that would be, I mean, Crystal's, you talked about lots of folks that she is in contact with. And so we, you know, if we have those 3 tracks with different volunteers taking on each or multiple or one or whatever, I think that by end of July, we'd be in really good shape.
So I agree. And I'm wondering, yeah.
Well, Matt just, I think, mentioned the newspaper. Do you think the source would actually publish the entire survey?
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely work to get earned media here. I mean, this is in their interest. It's interesting. And I think if we weave the narrative correctly, they'll run it, and as well as the survey. But I think that should be part of the plan for sure, because that will reach a lot of folks, you know, particularly older folks in Madison.
I bet you the paper would also use it as a stuffer too. Not that I want it to get lost in all the ads, but I mean, every week we get the paper with a bunch of stuff in it. And in addition to publishing it actually in the paper, perhaps for like 4 weeks running, we could just get the survey distributed with the source that everybody gets.
Yeah, and if we have this plan ready to be executed when that survey is ready, we're ready to go. So let's, you know, put it together.
Okay, so let's do that for the next like few minutes right now. Let's focus on, so for example, the source. Who might be, does anyone have a contact there, or who might want to talk to the source about what we're thinking? And
Well, Jesse Williams has already done an article on this committee. So I'm sure he'd be interested in hearing more about it. I don't know, Dave, who you think, I mean, he might want to hear from you, Sarah, as the chairperson.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
fine,
Yeah,
I'm happy to contact him. And if you have contact information, I'm sure I can get it. But if you have like direct contact information, I'll take that. Fine. And so I would be asking, I would be explaining that there's going to be this survey and seeing what they could do around the survey, either printing it or printing a link or something like that.
right. And an article would be nice too.
At the same time. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so that's easy enough. What do you think about, we don't have that many churches. What about going to each of the churches and the synagogue? I could handle the contact to the synagogue. I'd be happy to handle the contact to the First Congregational Church unless somebody actually has a contact, or maybe that should,
So there's a group that's of all the churches, like a faith group,
and the synagogue.
right?
It's an interfaith effort.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Could we leverage, could we kind of less work, get everyone all at once with, do they meet? You know what I mean? Like, do they have?
Yes, they do. You know what? You're
Okay.
right. And the only thing I don't know is it Madison specific? It might not be, but that's okay. So I can look into, when I look into TBT, that's just easy enough. And if there isn't a group that we can reach out to, then I think we should go back to dividing up the churches. And what that would be is, a phone call and possibly a visit where you introduce yourself and you talk about what we're starting to do and you hear from them, their thoughts, and also tell them about the survey. So let me see if there's an interfaith effort, and if there is, and it's easy enough to just get to the word out all at once, then we won't have to go separately. What about stores? What about things like Roberts and Stop and Shop, and who would be willing to make those connections?
And this is for
yeah.
getting standing outside or whatever, asking them to have it in their stores, et cetera, the survey.
I feel like why not do two things at once if you can? Like if a manager will talk to you, if someone will talk to you, you can talk both about the need that they see.
Yep.
And you can talk about, we have this survey coming up, and yes, could we? Yeah, exactly.
I can do Roberts. I live right across the street.
Great. Can someone do Stop and Shop?
Or unless Andrea, if you want to do it, feel free.
So Andrea, that's a yes, you're gonna do that? Yeah, okay. Just anecdotally, I find Stop and Shop is going to respond very quickly and easily, and Roberts is a little harder, so you might want to actually go in person. That's just a,
There every other day.
oh, perfect, perfect. And it's more family run, and so you'll see the manager's not there every day, but Stop and Shop, I feel like if Madison asks for something, they very quickly respond. That's not a preference about groceries, it's just. What else? What else do we have? Oh, what other groups do we want to?
It's the
Do
li-
we have that list, or does someone have that
What
list
about
handy?
the
that we
library?
could- I can contact the library.
I'll be
Or I
honest,
can.
I don't have the list handy. But yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry, Peter, you want to do the library?
Well, I just, the Madison Foundation gave them a big grant to build their tent. So I might be able to call in a little bit of a
Okay.
favor by reaching out to them.
and the
Okay.
truth is, the library has reached out to us already, and they have said they're in. So Peter, I can give you those, the people who said, please contact us and tell us what you
If
need.
you would, that would be great. Thank you, Sarah.
Happy
I'll
to do
follow
it,
up
yeah.
on that.
Heather, I saw you, because I'm thinking, Senior Center, Madison Youth and Family Services.
Madison Community Services. The folks
Madison,
that run the food pantry.
oh, right.
I can reach out to them if you want.
That would be great. That would be great.
I'm on the board of the Madison Youth and Family Services, so I can speak with them.
Fine. And Crystal, Crystal, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, I have sort of a couple things going on right now, but I'm here listening.
Yeah, no
And
worries.
I can do whoever you wanna, whoever I speak to, and I work for YFS, obviously.
Yeah.
So,
So that might be helpful since Crystal's, both of you, if you want to do that, that's great. Talk to them. And also, I think that's a great place to get the survey out.
Just out of curiosity, does anybody know when the senior center will open again?
So we're slowly reopening starting in July for activities that folks have signed up for. We're going to do a takeaway lunch every day where folks can sit outside on the patio and have their lunch on the patio on nice days. And then beginning in the fall, we're going to fully reopen.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone have the appetite to sort of go around to gyms and like hardware stores? I'm thinking there's a CrossFit, one closed, but there's another one. Stores in Madison.
I can do the Anytime Fitness in Madison.
So I'm sorry, so we're asking them if they would be willing to disseminate the survey?
Yep, and I think we're also just talking to them and, introducing ourselves, saying what we're doing, what this effort is, that we have to write a plan by June 2022, listening and sort of taking notes to anything they have to say, open-ended questions, not a survey, and then saying a survey will be forthcoming and, would you be willing to participate? Would you be willing to put it out at your business? Yes. The dry cleaner. I feel like so Spotlight, I'd be happy to go there and ask them to put out a survey.
What about like the Rotary, the JCs, the Newcomers Club?
Yes, all of those. Yep.
I could do the Newcomers Club.
clubs and try to reach out to the people who. I don't even know if is Lions still a thing, Lions Club. But yeah, I can list and try to do it.
So you're going to do Lions or Rotary? Oh, I didn't hear what you were saying.
I can do, unless people have contacts there, I don't, but I can do Lions, Rotary. I'll reach out, however many clubs there are, newcomers.
I can do newcomers and Rotary. I have contacts there.
Okay, I'll do Lions.
If you want to do JCs
I'll do JCs.
and Lions.
Yeah, I'll do those two. That's great.
Okay.
I just learned that there's a Madison diversity group. I don't know. I'm
I'm part
Okay.
of that.
okay. And so I sort of had it on my list to reach out to them anyway. So if you're part of it, great. But I'm happy to make that connection too. And Andrea, I can explain that you're on our committee. And then so maybe when it's time for the survey, you can give it to them if they're willing to send it out to their members. I think ABC is a board that we've talked about getting in touch with, and I'm happy to do that as well. Sorry, I've got some dogs who are losing their mind.
I'm sorry, which one did you just say, Sarah?
I said
Oh, ABC.
ABC.
Got it.
And Andrea, what's the correct name of the
A better
Madison
chance.
Diversity and Inclusion Council.
Madison what?
Madison Diversity and Inclusion Council.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I've been a member since the beginning of it, so.
Fine. So you want to do that then? Is that?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm happy to do ABC.
What about Economic Development Commission, Dave? Do you think it would be worth either you or maybe some of us going and talking to them?
Yeah, I think maybe, be honest with you, it could be a good to involve the chamber in that discussion as well.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yes.
EDC and the chamber at the same time. So yeah, Aaron, maybe you and I could talk separately and how best to arrange that.
Okay.
But I think that is a good idea.
Because they may also have some good ideas of who to reach
Right.
out to as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the chamber's network is pretty large, so I do think that's a
Yeah.
good idea to tap into that, so.
Mm-hmm.
So
Is
I
I
think,
oh go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was going to ask, is Eileen, is she still running it?
Well, no, Michelle, I think Michelle is officially now the executive director
okay.
and Eileen is part-time, so there is a local person now kind of running it.
I'll mention it at Raise the Roof. Raise the Roof is the shoreline connection to Habitat, but as a practical matter, it's very heavily Madison folks because it was originally started as Madison Cares. And so see what they can do. I think as long as we have sort of our charge, which is, this is introducing ourselves, explaining the committee, hearing from people, explaining that there's this survey coming up. If you think of groups, I think you should just email the group and saying, I'm taking this, so we'll have a comprehensive list. And so you don't end up going to a store or someone who's already been, someone has gone to. But my guess is that when we're off this Zoom, we'll think of others. And I think we should err on the side of over inclusiveness. So, if you think of someone, don't, just send it to the group so we make sure no one else already went. Concord Meadows also is, and Andrea, either one of us can do that. We can talk about who's gonna.
So we're talking to the Dems and the Repubs, whoever runs that, and asking them to get it out in their platforms when it comes? Or do we want to stay clear of that? I asked,
Might be tricky.
I think those are probably pretty involved people, and so maybe more willing to do a survey. But
I can talk to Amy Stefanowski, who's the chair of the Republican Town Committee, and get her feeling on if she'd be willing to push it out to the people.
I think that's a good idea personally. I think the act of disseminating the survey isn't really a political act. And so I think, if they can just tap into their network to help disseminate it, I think it definitely is useful. I mean, we're not asking them to take any specific direction or buy into any specific component of it. We're just asking them to help, disseminate the survey. So yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Joan Walker.
There you go.
Okay, all right. And there, I think you might want to, stick with both on the survey. There's going to be a survey coming out, and, at least that there is this committee and what we're charged with doing, which is this plan, Okay. I mean, I think this sounds good. And for now, like I said, we don't have to end here if you think of people. May I just go back for 1 second to the consultant, right? Since there are these grants where we maybe could have a consultant who would work just with Madison, I think it might make sense to apply for it. But Dave, I really have no sense of if we apply for it, is that me writing a grant or what does that entail?
Well, I can tell you it's not me writing a grant just because I don't have that, only a few weeks left.
I was worried you might say something like that.
Yeah, no, I don't think it would necessarily fall on your shoulders, but I guess it would be up to I would say the first select woman to help see if there's any town resources that could assist you with that. So I think Sarah would be, if you guys decide that you'd like to apply for that grant, I think you'd have to talk to Peggy and see if there's any town assistance to support you in that. We've talked historically in town about having a grant writer, hiring a grant writer, having a consulting, which I think would be extremely beneficial, but we do not have that at the moment. So I think it would take, but yeah, I don't know how difficult those grants are too. I haven't looked at it. It may not be that challenging. I mean, I think they want towns to pursue this money. So when you look at it, you may find it's actually fairly simple, but I haven't looked at it in detail yet.
And I haven't looked at it either because I felt first of all, I didn't think we were really eligible given that we had, but now that I understand we are, I think it's worth it. I can take another look, and I'm happy to reach out and see if there are resources off the top of your head. Dave and Aaron, do you have a sense of if there are resources or who? I mean, I hear you saying there's no grant writer. Is there anyone's shoulders this would fall on?
Well, honestly, it would, if I were to be here, I would do it. There's a possibility that the town may contract with a planning consultant until my position is replaced, and potentially that planning consultant could assist with it. I think that would be a logical potential path. But really there's not. I mean, I know Heather and Crystal are here, but they're both tapped out. And I know Heather specifically is involved with Beach and Rec in that transition. So I think she can't, I'm going to speak for her in this case. I don't think she can take on any more responsibility. So we're fairly lean at the town.
Normally I would definitely jump right in, but I definitely can't take anything else on right now. So I appreciate that, Dave.
Okay, so I think what we're hearing is, I can spend 2 weeks and have a discussion, with the first select woman and see, but I don't think we're going to turn up anything. So I think we're looking at it. And so I guess I'm happy to look over the requirements and see what they entail. Who would be willing to step up and sort of work on that grant as well? Keeping in mind that this grant would be for a consultant for us, just for us. So would come to these meetings and would do what we think is necessary to do, maybe even finding plots of land or talking about feasibility. The fact that Peter just went to video turned off his video.
He went dark.
Sign.
I'll help with it.
Thank you. I mean, if we want to start talking tapped out, we can start to make lists of what people have going on in their lives, because I think we're all tapped out, and I don't mean Heather, that means you have to step up in any way. I just think, I am hopeful that this isn't that big a deal because these are small grants. I think they're like $15,000. So it's not even worth, I mean, a consultant that we would get would take a percentage of it, right? And I don't think it's worth hiring someone to do this grant that would, so let's see what it entails. I don't think it's going to be that big a deal, but they are first come, first serve. So
I would
Could you-
also say looking at the time frame of the grant would be important too. Because I think at that meeting on Tuesday, one of the folks mentioned that they tried to access the grant and they were concerned about when the funding would come in with that and whether it would be in time for what the charge is. So.
yeah,
unless
I think that was a mistake though, because the whole point of the grant is for people writing their plans for June of 2022. So,
right.
but okay, fair enough. I mean,
Did you forward that? Sarah, did you say that was in an email from Peggy and to you and Dave? And did you forward that to us? I feel
I
like
did not forward it on to anyone, so
Okay,
I will.
okay.
It was more like an FYI, and I think Dave and
Yes,
I both felt,
but I feel like I
like,
saw it.
oh, well, then maybe she
Okay.
sent it to you too.
I don't know.
Or it maybe came across your desk, quite frankly. I mean, it maybe went out to the, select people.
Yeah.
I don't know what to
Yeah,
call you as a
so-
group. Are you select men as a group or select people? In any way.
People.
I don't know if there's an official title.
Fine, then I will call you select people since half of you
Yeah,
are
okay.
men.
That sounds good.
Hey, Sarah, I was
Yeah.
offline for a minute, but if we're still talking about the grant money, Peggy might be able to assign this to Lauren Rhines too. Lauren's kind of her chief of staff, and she might be able to.
Yeah,
give
I
you
know
some
who
help.
Lauren is. Yeah. I hope Lauren's not watching this right now and
Yeah.
running to Peggy and
Probably
saying,
not.
I'm-
She's
I'm
probably
sure-
you
killing
know
me
what
for
Peter
saying
just
it.
did?
I'm sure she'd be a resource. I don't think
Yeah,
she would be
that's-
able
I mean,
to.
even if she
Yeah.
doesn't help out per se, she
Yeah.
might be able to,
Okay.
move
Yeah.
some of the.
I think I have my
obstacle.
charge to at least look at it and see what it actually would entail. And then once I know what it entail, that might help us know what we would need and if it's even feasible for us to do. Okay, I honestly feel like that's a lot for the next few weeks. But I do want to go back for a second and before we end to updates. And I wondered, Peter, if you could just say, your reach out to Hope 6, and then I have one other to say.
Okay, I'm not sure what Hope 6 is, but the Hope Partnership.
Oh, Hope
Um,
Partnership. You know what? Hope 6 is something I worked on in Chicago. I'm so sorry.
So
You
I
shouldn't do
met
these
with
at midnight.
Tony. Yeah, I met with Tony Lyons and Stephen Dollar last Monday for coffee, and just chit chat and what makes the town interesting, and how the Wellington came to be, and it really is opportunistic. I mean, you have to sort of, these things kind of happen because the dollars were moving out of this project. The Hope Partnership got involved. I think it will behoove us at some point in time to want to have a really good list of available development areas. I mean, obviously that's not something we have to do today, but that's going to be something that developers will key in on. And then we just kind of talked about their projects. And I asked Tony if he'd be willing to have a tour of Spencer's Crossing, which is in Centerbrook / Essex. And he said, absolutely. And we were hoping to have done it this Friday, but the demand for those projects has been so high that they're fully occupied. And the manager of the project has been out on a family leave. And so it's kind of stay tuned, but they will allow us to come through and see some of the units. They just have to give the tenants advance notice. So we can come in and see what an affordable housing project looks like. And then some of the people from Hope Partnership would be available just to field general questions as we go through. So I thought that would be helpful. And so I expect to hear maybe next week. I doubt we can pull it off the week before the 4th, but sometime after that, I would guess. We may have a bit more spotty attendance next Friday or 2 weeks from Friday. But anyway, that's my hope. And they're absolutely willing. And he's been very communicative with me. But again, there is a little bit of a logistics issue in that you have to have people willing to open up their doors, let you come through and see it because they are occupied. And they have a
What is the
long wait
name?
list. Pardon
What's
me?
the name of that again? Spencer's what?
Spencer's Crossing.
Crossing.
And then they have another one too. I forget the name of it in that area. And then of course they're doing the Wellington here in Madison in the next couple of years. And that was just announced back in February. So, but they're strictly, Hope Partnership is strictly affordable housing based. And it's like a pretty interesting organization actually. But they want to work with us because that's obviously, it's beneficial to them.
And when you say it's strictly affordable housing, what is their, I'm sorry that I don't know. Is it rental? Is it,
Everything they've done thus far has been rental, and that's probably their focus.
and does it
Dave, do you
go,
know?
No, I think you're right. Yeah, I'm not aware that they've done any for sale projects.
Yeah, I don't think they have. It's all rental.
right, that's helpful. Okay, so thank you for trying to organize that. And the last thing I'll say is, I mean, I think developers are looking and they're understanding that, I mean, obviously the town of Madison has an RFP out right now. And I think, they're going to reach out to us and some have started to reach out, and specifically Beacon Communities spoke to me just to hear what our committee does. And I just think it's important that we be transparent with each other about what we're hearing and what people are reaching out to us. And then, not right now, but it might be worth it for us to develop some speaking points. I mean, we've come together presumably not just to write a plan, but because we believe in affordable housing. And so it might be nice to think about some talking points that we could give that we would feel comfortable having given them. I hope that makes sense.
Sarah, can I come back to one other thing?
Please.
One of the fellows at the Hope Partnership, I think his name is Jim Crawford. If you go to Hope Partnership's website, he gave a 3-minute speech at the First Con Church in East Lyme, or in Lyme, excuse me, a couple of weeks ago. And he just laid out very succinctly why affordable housing is important. And I watched it because Stephen Dowler sent it to me. And I thought it was really excellent. I would just urge everybody to take a look at that video.
I appreciate that. And I think you sent it to me because I watched it as well. And I agree. Those are the kinds of things. And I forgot that I watched it, but you're right, that those are the kinds of things that would be helpful to, so we're all, so we can maybe in future meetings agree on, let's say, 5 points that we want to get across and that we all feel we agree on. Does that make sense?
Peter, what was the site again?
It's the Hope Partnership website.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. I think that's giving us enough for right now. As soon as I hear anything about the consultants or when things are starting, I'm sure as soon as Dave hears anything, we'll let you know. Although it seems like, Dave, you will be leaving just as the consultant's starting. So
It sounds like it.
if you don't extend again, that is. So.
I think my new employer, which I start on the 6th, won't be too happy if I go much longer. So.
So
Dave,
who's
where
going to call Save the Sound and lobby them?
Save the Sound?
Yes.
And they're based
Yeah,
in.
so Matt, I probably want to talk to you at some point because I will be doing a little bit of kind of lobbying style work. So wouldn't mind catching up with you on that at some point.
Lucky you, my friend.
All right, so I think that's it for now, unless anyone has anything else.
Nope.
All right.
I had a thought actually. I wonder if we could use, if there be any opportunities to use the American Recovery monies to help us with if we needed funds for one of our initiatives. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that.
I think a lot of us are thinking about it, and I don't know Dave, if you have more of official.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I absolutely think yes, and I think potentially the money might even be for a program that you guys recommend as kind of an outcome of your plan. Because the money for the American Rescue Plan is for 3 years. So if you don't use the the money to develop the plan, you might ask for a pot of money to implement one of the initiatives that's recommended in the plan. So I've been thinking a little bit about that, and I think it's an excellent idea that you keep that in mind, because I do think there's probably creative ways to utilize some of that funding to further our goals. So.
And I think some of it is very clearly for this kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. So.
So, I mean, do you think it would be easier to do that rather than pursue a grant?
Oh, you mean for a consultant to help us? Is that what you mean?
Well, I was just kind of speaking generally, but then I was just thinking if the grant, is going to be a process to apply for, and we might not get it, would we be better off just trying to get funds through the American Rescue Plan?
Yeah, I think it's worth discussion. I think if Sarah looks at the grant form and it seems, well, it's going to be a little bit onerous and, maybe dicey on whether or not we're awarded, I think that's a logical next step, is to think about that, what you just suggested, Aaron. But,
I mean,
without having looked at it closely, my guess is it's probably not going to be that burdensome of a grant, and they want to give money to towns to do this. So I think we just have to, I think the only thing that's going to be trouble for us is if, they'll be aware that the COG is funding a pretty large initiative. So I think we just have
Right.
to explain how this additional consultant will be utilized to further our goals. And I think you can do that, but it's just, we're going to need to make that effort.
Yeah, I think we can
Who is-
definitely do it.
who is the grant through again?
Department of Housing, right? State Department of Housing, I believe.
I think that's right. And I'll be honest. I mean, I just looked at it quickly and figured we weren't going to do it. And now that I think we might, I'll look at it closely and be able to answer all these questions.
Okay.
Okay. I think with that, I think we should adjourn. And I think we all have our assignments for the next few weeks. So please be in touch if you think of another group. And then I would just say, keep good notes of all your meetings so that we can report back to each other. Okay?
Mhm.
All right.
Good, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.
Have a good